Jeff Strahl, welcome back to Planet Waves FM. I think, not that it's any kind of a competition, but you're right up there with Christine Massey as he who has appeared the most times on the program. Jeff, I thank you for first of all appearing on such short notice, basically no notice, and because I'm doing this program basically on no notice, and I want to just get with you on starting on Thursday night when we learned that Israel had the IDF had bombed Tehran at about 3 o'clock in the morning local time. What can you tell us about that, and what has happened? And now it's been 4 days since that happened. Can you just help sum up the basic structure of the events in that time?
Well, there are three major things to note about what happened 3:30 a.m. local time, Friday morning local time, Friday the 13th
Three
in
thirty.
Iran
Quickly on the time. It was 3:30. What was the
a.m. in Tehran time,
right?
so it's local time.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah,
so so can you take us through the events of the last few days, please? And
sure.
then we'll analyze them. I know we've only got half an hour, so um,
Should I start?
yeah, please.
Okay. So there were three features to what happened. Then I got that from an insider, Dan Senor, on the pro-Israel broadcast. Um, the Air Force basically used all its capacity, over 200 planes in different waves, initially destroying the Iranian Defense Forces' ability to protect against air raids, basically destroying their anti-aircraft systems. Then
Civilian or military?
this was the
Okay.
military anti-aircraft.
Okay.
No, to destroy the anti-aircraft for
I see. Okay.
weaponry. Yeah, paving, kind of opening avenues, and then more planes came in, and it's curious what route that they took. They flew over Syria and Iraq and apparently Saudi Arabia on the way in. So they basically just went in. You could say th those nations did not, governments did not do anything to stop it.
Nor do they consent.
And well, it's not clear. I mean, if they could have certainly issued um, denunciations of it being done, and they haven't. And
Syria,
so,
Iraq, and Saudi, they
yeah,
have so they their airspace was transgressed, and they did not say, "You bad people, you did this."
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So keep going. So the original
So
strike was
then,
on. Is it true that it was on
on
nuclear facilities? Oh, go ahead.
the initial was on air defense systems. The next waves started targeting nuclear facilities, such as the major enrichment plant in Natanz, other military facilities, such as the storage areas for the missiles, for the ballistic missiles that Iran had, and also in cooperation with elements on the ground targeting Iranian top military and political assets. Apparently, the secret services, special forces, had infiltrated Iranian land space and set up little bases from where they launched drones onto Iranian targets. And this resulted in the assassination of the top echelon of the Revolutionary Guard, the commander, I think, his assistant, possibly the next person down. Also, the chief of staff of the Iranian military in general. The military is a separate thing from the Revolutionary Guards. I
Right.
don't know if people know that.
Just
Maybe
briefly,
I
what's the
should.
difference?
Oh, who command the military is under the head the direction of the Minister of Defense. In other supposedly a civilian figure, whereas the Revolutionary Guards have a commander who is answerable only to the quote unquote supreme leader, Khamenei at this point.
Okay.
So these people were assassinated up and down, as well as a whole bunch of nuclear scientists, people who had worked on the program, who are still working on it, going all the way to campuses in Iran to assassinate them.
So the
So they're
IDF
the,
and Mossad had infiltrated. They'd infiltrated Iran
yeah, massively.
and
That's a second
attacked
major
from within.
feature. It's not people from within. It's apparently agents working
Yeah, yeah,
directly for
Mossad
the
and IDF,
service.
but they attacked from within Iran.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And
Yeah.
third, there was the whole decoy thing, the pretense that the U.S. and Israel were disagreeing, and that the U.S. was telling that Trump was telling Netanyahu do nothing before Sunday when there's a next meeting. And
And
apparently there was
the meeting was to get some kind of a compromise with Iran, right? And then
between
there's
the U.S. and Iran on the question of enrichment, uranium enrichment.
okay, so this is very important salient fact that the United States and Iran were scheduled to have a meeting today, basically.
Hmm.
And preemptive
Hmm.
of that meeting, Israel just went and pretty much before there could be any outcome, any positions, any agreement, disagreement, deadlock, or signing a deal, bombed, destroyed the nuclear enrichment facilities, and killed the leadership of the nuclear program and the military.
Correct. And get this, the president of the US, Donald Trump, said the next day about the whole thing, excellent job, and noted that this was the 61st day on a 60-day ultimatum that he delivered to the leadership of Iran to accept the deal that the US offered,
It
or
was
else there'd be consequences.
it was day 60 of 60
It was day 61 of
of
I mean, Friday, the day that it was attacked, it was day 61 of
Yeah, but the meeting was
ultimatum.
scheduled for today. So,
Yeah. So I get apparently the Iranians didn't know that they were under a 60-day limit ending on
oh,
Thursday.
they
So,
weren't told about this deadline.
well, if there was all the motion towards having a meeting on Sunday, either they were told and just didn't accept. It was saying, yeah, it was another one of these last minute do this or else they weren't told. I'm not sure which.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not sure which is worse.
either way, it's dirty. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I'm not sure which one is worse.
right. Okay, next. So
So
so now
there was
where? Go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
oh, more attacks followed, and eventually the Iranian armed forces launched retaliation, firing missiles and drones into Israel. And most of these have been intercepted. Apparently, a bunch of them have been intercepted with the help of US, UK, and Jordanian forces, shooting down, like, for example, drones. And the Israeli anti-missile defense is shooting down a lot of the bigger stuff, like the incoming missiles.
Right. I mean,
So, but most of as good as the defense system is, a bunch of them have gotten through and have impacted various zones, including one hit central Tel Aviv, uh, just about in the area of what's called the Kiryat, the campus, which is where the Israeli military has its headquarters. There are two
uh,
buildings in that area.
wait, you're saying that the Israeli military headquarters was actually penetrated?
But a missile hit the immediate neighborhood. There were reports that one of the buildings was hit, but Israeli censorship prohibits any reporting of something like of military impacts.
Okay.
You'd be arrested and sent to jail for reporting, or even more, say, taking a video of such an event.
Oh, the censorship in
But as
Israel
on
is
civilian areas, you can report as much as you want, but any military targets hit, you're not allowed to report. So it's not to help the enemy in its targeting. So it's very possible that one of the buildings in that campus was hit, the Defense Ministry's campus was hit, but
right.
definitely an apartment building was hit with major impact. Buildings were hit in Rishon LeZion, which is immediately adjacent to Tel Aviv, just south of it. Like Yonkers is adjacent to New York City,
Yeah.
and Bat Yam, which is a bit southeast along the coast. And there are also missiles that impacted the city of Haifa, which is the big port city of the country, in the northern part of the country.
And wasn't there a strike in an Arab city also?
There was a strike on Arab city just north of Haifa, but this morning a missile hit central Haifa, causing causing a bunch of civilian casualties again. But if there are any major, supposedly oil facilities were also hit, but that's not being allowed to be reported.
Right, but it's being reported in the States.
Hmm. Well, that there were claims that oil facilities were hit, but nothing
I
verified.
got your email that it expanded into the energy sector, meaning oil rather than nuclear.
Because the IDF targeted Iranian oil facilities,
Right.
targeted the facility that's immediately adjacent to the largest gas field in the world in in the Gulf, which Iran shares with Qatar, and it also the IDF also targeted the port city of Bandar al Abbas in the very south of the country on the coast of the Arabian Sea, which also has major oil facilities. They haven't hit Hag Island yet, which is an island which is the major terminal for shipping oil. And Iranian members of parliament, whether I mean officials, have hinted anonymously to international media that they may order the closing of the Straits of Hormuz. Should I explain
Yeah,
what
that's where all the oil passes through. I mean, this is,
all the oil from the Persian Gulf that's going to go out via ship has to pass through the
I mean,
Straits of
this
Hormuz.
has always seemed to me the thing that you just didn't want to have. You did not ever want to have the closing of the Straits of Hormuz because that basically shuts the oil down coming out of the entire Persian Gulf, as you say.
20% of the world's oil supply. Yeah. There is a way there is some ways out of it, like pipelines that would go out to, I mean, to the Arabian Sea and around the Straits, but they cannot transport all the oil that's
No.
usually
And when you look at
transported.
it, I mean, I've studied this map. I mean, it's so strategic. I mean, what's on one side? Is it Gibraltar? What are on the
Well, no, Oman. The Sultanate of Oman is on the south side.
Strait of Hormuz map? Okay, so what's on the south? What's the peninsula coming up on the south? Dubai, and then
Well, Dubai is a bit
what's
further west.
Kashab? What's Kasab?
I believe on the
Oman.
south it's a
Oh,
part of
that's
the Sultanate
Oman.
of,
So
yeah, Sultanate
Oman
of Oman.
controls the south of the Straits of Hormuz, and then Bandar Abbas is what nation?
Iran.
Iran. Ah, oh,
That's what I mentioned earlier that Bandar al-Abbas was hit.
oh God. Okay, now let's analyze a little bit if we're ready. We have enough of the facts laid out. to do some analysis here?
Well, do you want me
Yes,
to?
please. Yeah, please. I mean, how bad is
I
this?
think on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say a 13.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, just what I didn't want to hear.
It's basically, I think at this point, a war to replace the regime. I think the US and Israel's governments have decided maybe they just ought to go for it while it's still possible and just com create such chaos that the regime doesn't survive.
Right.
At least see if they can accomplish it.
And
Because
what
the alternative is for Iran to agree to a deal which would take away all its rights to i- immediate enrichment. All enrichment would have to be done outside the country. They would have to give up all the fuel that's been enriched so far and all the facilities, such as the centrifuges used for enrichment.
right.
I mean, that's the
This is the
pretty
production
major.
of uranium 235 or something, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
changing uranium 238 to more more
Fissionable.
active forms. You're right.
Right. Okay.
The
Which
Energy IAEA, the International Agency for
International
the
Atomic
International
Energy Agency.
Atomic Agency has stated that Iranian facilities have been enriching uranium to 60%, which is way, way above what's needed for commercial operations.
Right.
So it would be possible for them to just kind of gallop to a nuclear weapon. And at this point, this is very much a possibility. Iran leaves the non-proliferation treaty and just goes for creating a nuclear weapon. I mean, figuring it's got nothing to lose if it wants to survive.
The regime, anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, I absolutely agree for the Iranian people who are just like any other people. I mean, this is not their fight.
this is there. There are no good guys among any of the regimes of the region. I need to I need to say this. The Gulf entities are venal speculators who are trying to make money on the world, and in fact are central to the imposition of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, otherwise known as Agenda 2030, otherwise known as UN uh, Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah, the Great Reset and
All the,
Klaus Schwab and all the. But this is we're
so,
talking. But Israel. This. I mean, Israel is behind this. I mean, Israel is probably the most technologically advanced country in the world.
but the Gulf states are the ones pushing I4IR on the international stage the most.
You mean the Saudis?
The, the Saudis, the United Arab Emirates, the government has a department called the Department of the Future, and Qatar is a major promoter of 4IR. Qatar, whose media outlet is Al Jazeera, the network that's kind of providing the supposedly objective news about the whole
Wait, Al
situation.
Jazeera is that of Qatar?
Yeah, it's basically an outlet of the Qatar government.
Yeah,
It's
I didn't,
financed entirely by the
I
Qatar
didn't know
government.
that. I know that a lot of BBC people there, like a lot of BBC people, walked out and joined Al Jazeera. And I've always
Yeah.
thought, for a long time, I've always thought Al Jazeera was one of the best sources of news in existence.
Well,
If I'm going to work
the,
for one place
pro-
besides Planet Waves, it
provi-
would be Al Jazeera.
provided, I mean, provided you keep track of what its interests are. I mean, it's a good source for a lot of what it'll show you what's going on, for example, in Gaza. But the line it pushes, even in news broadcasts, and it's really naked, is a message which is advancing the interests of Qatar
Okay.
in the region, not necessarily the interests of the people of
See, I
the.
missed this whole dimension of Al Jazeera. This is the first I'm hearing of it in this conversation.
Another media outlet is Al Arabiya, and that's the media outlet of the United Arab Emirates.
Okay, so what are you learning from these outlets?
Oh, they're pushing the line that Israel and Iran need to compromise. There must be a way for Iran to basically accept the U.S. proposal. It's like saying, "Oh, you should stop fighting, you bad kids, but you need to, but bad Iran, you need to do this." And Qatar is part of the axis of power together with the government of Turkey and the new government in Syria that's pushing a particular regional regional power interest in in rivalry to another axis promoted by Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the new government of Lebanon. Qatar and Turkey's regimes are linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. So that's the interest they're pushing, whereas Saudi Arabia and Egypt are pushing a different type of Islam.
Is this a Sunni Shia split?
Now, those are both Sunni forces. There's also the Shiite bloc, Iran, uh, heavily represented in Iraq. And even though, well, actually, he was sort of not quite a Shiite, but a branch away from the Sunni, the Assad regime, Alawites. So
Yep.
they were allied with Iran and Iraq interests. Now, no longer. And there
So
was Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is a force which
Iran and Iraq are now on the same side of this.
Iraq is totally ambiguous. Ambiguous. It doesn't have its act together even enough to prevent Israeli forces from going right across it. I mean,
Yeah,
the
well, it
Israel.
was just bombed by the United States between basically 1990 and 2019 or something, right? I mean, it was,
Not quite that, like 2010. Well, and then there was
oh,
the
right. Okay. Yeah, it was like 20 solid
anti-ISIS
years.
intervention. But there was also the anti-ISIS intervention. So there are American forces right now in Iraq, still in Iraq, not a, and the government would feel very ambivalent about having to tell them to leave and have to face forces hostile to it in the form of ISIS. So the Iraqi government is playing ambivalent.
Right.
It doesn't want to alienate Iran. Iran doesn't want to alienate Israel. Doesn't want to alienate the U.S.
Well, there's hardly been a country in the world that's been more pounded than Iraq. I can't believe there's anything
Hmm.
left.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and there's also a large part of the country that's essentially broken off and under completely autonomous control.
The Kurdish.
The Kurdish zone. Yeah, it's practically carrying out its own foreign policy
Right.
and very friendly to Israel and the U.S. I think, in fact,
Okay.
there are bases there.
Okay. So now my concern is this could become a regional war. Do you
I
share
think
that concern?
I think that I would give that a very high likelihood. I'd be surprised if that doesn't happen, if this conflict in the next few days or weeks doesn't become a major regional war. I'd be as surprised if if it doesn't, as I would be surprised to go to some music venue today and see Jerry Garcia with the
This is
Tiger
gonna.
walk on
Yeah.
stage.
Right. Okay. All right. All right. So in effect, we are potentially on the brink of a world war because when it's all out war in West Asia, How likely is it to stay a proxy war? I mean, I'm not a big fan of this kind of negative prediction, but I mean, we've even talked about this, and I have thought about this. I don't even cover foreign this kind. Like this is not really my beat, but I have been stuck covering so many of these wars over the past 35 years, starting with Bush War One, Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. I mean, Iran has always been like the wet dream. We're going to bomb the shit out of these people,
Well,
and here we are.
I- brother, I will tell you, I think we're already in World War III. I think it started with, well, it's hard to say exactly when it started. There have been wars for resources in Africa all through the 20 to the 00s and the 10s. But now with Ukraine, I think it's become very blatantly about different parts of different sides of the global power structure. And now it's just the growing war has expanded to a new arena in an active way. There are inactive arenas right now in Asia with further east in Asia with the India and Pakistan standoff, which hasn't been resolved. And that's really part of the India-China standoff, which will figures to get worse. There's a China-US confrontation that's growing. Not really just about Taiwan. It's actually even more ominous in my eyes regarding the Philippines, what's going on in the Philippines, and regarding what's going on with Japan. China, China's government claims islands that are currently under Iranian, not Iranian,
Japanese.
Japanese control, and it's also claiming increasing zones of the South China Sea where there's no land, but Chinese ships sail in, drop a whole bunch of earth and other stuff, and build islands with facilities, and thereby claim the areas around these islands to be their zones. And this is eating at the fringes of the Philippines, the territory of the Philippines. So there are growing confrontations between those two in the navy, on the seas. That is, like ships having a standoff regarding certain areas, and the artificial islands are being reinforced with military personnel and weaponry.
China's building artificial islands off the coast of what?
Well, off islands that are already part of the territory of the Philippines. So it's China's government has declared a big economic zone stretching way out into the South China Sea, and over it, it's starting to build these islands.
Okay, so we're basically in this kind of complete mashup. I mean, this
Hmm.
almost sounds like before World War One.
You got it. It's exactly like before World War One. That was mostly focused in Africa, with some action in Asia, much more limited. The main action being in Africa, but that's exactly World War One almost happened over a period of say about 15 years before it actually started.
Oh,
I mean, there were several incidents that came close to igniting World War One. It wasn't just this random assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand at all. It
right.
was a, there were clashes for parts of Africa, and there was a global economic collapse in 1909, 1910 that the world had still not recovered from. Just like in the 1930s before World War II. And now there's a global economic crisis as well. I think part that's a it's a key driver of that. The powers, different factions of the powers that be are grabbing for what enables them to be powers that be.
Yep. And everything's up for grabs with AI happening now.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is now a
Exactly.
war for the internet. It's a war for control of the internet, basically. War for the control of the entire computing environment.
Well,
Um,
war also control of the material world definitely does aspects of it that enable the internet and AI to continue, such as critical raw
all the
materials.
rare earth elements.
Yeah. And just even more basic elements, such as supplies of iron ore and
Yep.
steel,
Aluminum,
as well as
titanium.
energy supplies. That's really critical too.
Okay. Oh,
And Africa is involved again
is Sudan
because
involved in this?
Sudan is, yeah, the war in Sudan is very much about this. And it involves Southwest Asia nations on different sides, the UAE backing one side and the Saudis backing the other.
Ah,
And now the Russians are backing the official government as well in return for getting a base on the Red Sea coast of Sudan. The Russians are providing backing for the government in Khartoum against what's called the RSF. And Libya, they're two rival groups. One of them controls the capital in the western part of the country. The other one, run by a guy named Haftar, rather than Hitler, runs. He used to be a CIA operative working in Chad, and then became commander of the military under Gaddafi, and then he became a part of the effort to overthrow Gaddafi. So this is a guy that's just out for to grab power. And Russia's government is backing him. Turkey's government is backing the official government. So there are wars already erupting over major parts of the world. And this latest one is just the most blatant one, but it's also very dangerous because of how it could expand. And because one of the sides is an unacknowledged nuclear power. Its policy about not nuclear power, nuclear weapons.
who's this?
Israel's
Pakistan?
policy, Israel's policy about whether it has nuclear weapons is called strategic ambiguity. It will not say whether it has them or not, but everybody in the world knows that the Israeli government has them. Yeah.
So it seems to
How
me
does
like
it?
there's a power vacuum coming from somewhere, which is a reorganization of the entire global economic structure. There's a power vacuum, and now there's massive, massive jockeying for power.
Hmm. The what would I say? The hierarch is no longer capable of just enforcing its will upon the whole structure. That's what the post-World War II New World Order has been. The US basically being able to call the shots, thanks to the only industrial nation emerging from World War II, relatively undamaged. Well, actually, completely undamaged,
Yeah.
and nuclear monopoly on the nuclear weapons, having the largest military in the world, and also having the dollar become the currency of the new global system, thanks not only to the founding conference of the IMF World Bank in Bretton Woods in 1944, but also thanks to a meeting between FDR and King Saud of Saudi Arabia on the Suez Canal
On a
in an
boat.
American destroyer in February 1945. After Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin met in Yalta and divided up Europe, Roosevelt went to Egypt and got on this and met King Saud on the destroyer in the Suez Canal. Not the Suez Canal, actually, in the Gulf of Suez. May have been the canal, may have been like the south end of the canal. But anyway, they made the agreement that the Saudis would denominate oil in dollars and only dollars.
Yeah,
So that created basically the dollar-based oil system, oil supply.
petrodollar.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you don't have a lot of time, and thanks for going over. You began with the countries in West Asia who are pushing the fourth industrial revolution.
Hmm.
Can you recap that? And then I'm going to go to break, and I'm going to come back and talk about how this is the war of this is basically the AI war. But so, what's your take on the how do we
On
say
AI.
this? For IR, who's pushing for IR, and what sides are involved?
Well, almost every government is pushing for IR. It's just a question of a degree. The Israeli government is pushing for IR pretty
You would
hard.
think that'd be right out front. Fourth industrial revolution, by the way, this essentially transhumanism, the
Yeah.
takeover of the world by computers.
Hmm. Well, basically, the first stage is herding all of society onto this digital panopticon,
Yeah.
blockchain based, of course, crypto financed and AI managed. And among the nations pushing hardest for it are Saudi Arabia, which is in fact planning this city that's going to have 9 million people. It's going to be one strip that's maybe about half a mile wide and 50 miles long. That, yeah, the strip city called Neom.
One massive smart city.
Yeah, constructed along a narrow line, totally linear, no cars. Everything is high rises. That's going to be the city. Yeah.
A big habit trail.
And what?
One big habit trail.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's Arab Emirates are pushing, and there are two interests, a rival interest even within United Arab Emirates, Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Each of those cities has its own set of interested capitalists, should we say. And then there's Qatar, which is also heavily pushing it. The United Arab Emirates as a whole has the Department of the Future, which is promoting AR for IR. And Qatar did a big global fair. This was in late 2023, early 2024, about like a 4 month affair about pushing for IR. Al Jazeera at every opportunity. Al Jazeera being the media outlet of Qatar pushes for IR at every opportunity. Heavily
Okay.
pushed the
I
pandemic
haven't seen
theory
this coverage. If you see one of these articles, will you just bounce it my way, please? I think this is a very salient fact. That that's
about
kind of the
about
thing that everyone, the Qatar pushing for. I mean, this seems to be the thing that everyone has in common. The surface level disagreements seem to be meaningless in the underlying truth that what they're all going for is a basically one world AI government.
um I would say they're not superficial. It's a question of who's going to be the top dog. You're not going to have like a commune of the elites.
Good.
We can share the women, we can share the wine, we can share the power.
Yeah,
Nothing.
multicultural kibbutz with
Right.
with
No, it's
nuclear power plants, providing the energy for the server farms.
they'll have conferences and shake hands while making sure that the knives in the back pockets are sharp and ready in case things change. So they're all jockeying for supremacy within that order, and the jockeying for the supremacy is real because only one entity gets to be number one. There's room at the top only for one.
Yeah.
And a shrink, and even as you get close to one, there's less and less room. So there's not enough room for all of them, not enough resources, not enough energy, and the jockeying is just going to get more frantic. But at the same time, they all agree that the world needs to be pushed into 4AR, so they can manage their underlings better. China and Russia, supposedly the leaders of the multipolar world order, the this arrangement that's being put forth as the alternative to the American empire, which is also being pushed hard by uh, Al Jazeera, very hard. And
Take back what I said about wanting to send them my resume. That I'm officially resigning it from the
but
mere
but
meek thought or imagination of working for them.
so, so China and Russia are among the nations that are pushing the hardest for digital ID and 4IR in general. There have been articles to that effect that I've included them in Lockdown Times
Hmm.
in recent weeks and months. But yeah, they're both very, very persistent and very upfront and very ahead in pushing those policies.
Yep.
So that's really what's going on. We're seeing early World War III jockeying for position, while at the same time all the elites move to make sure that nobody completely breaks free of this, which is exactly what everybody else, but the 99.99% of us should be doing is breaking free of this. If
Yeah.
you want to stay alive and if you want to stay human, folks, that is.
Yes. All right. I will pick up on that theme when we come back from break. Jeff, thank you for interrupting your evening. For the sake of Planet Waves FM listeners, and
Absolutely.
I have mentioned you in the first segment among the stand-up men in my life. I did 45 minutes on all the absolutely fantastic men in my life in honor of Father's Day, and you are on the list with Mark Bailey and various other people in the world.
See if this gets me a date.
Yes, may you have many.
Take care, bro.
All right, good. Bless. Bye for
Bye.
now.